I pressed my palm against the restaurant's cold glass window, watching couples half my age laugh over candlelit tables. 53 years old, and here I was, about to meet a man. I'd only texted with a man who claimed age was just a number. I almost turned around, because deep down, I was terrified he'd take one look at me and realize numbers do matter. The invitation had arrived 3 weeks earlier through a dating app. I'd downloaded in a moment of wine-fueled courage. Coffee? The message read. Simple. Unthreatening. His profile showed a kind smile, and eyes that crinkled at the corners. But the birth year made me scroll back. Up, 37, 16 years younger than me. I'd almost deleted it, almost typed back, "You've made a mistake." But something in his follow-up message stopped me. "I read your profile 3 times. You quoted Mary Oliver. You volunteer at the animal shelter. You said you believe people are worth the risk. So I'm taking one. Coffee? How could I say no to that? Now standing outside. Giuseppe's, he'd upgraded from coffee to dinner. I smoothed down my navy dress for the 100th time. The November wind cut through the fabric, but I barely felt it. My hands were already numb from anxiety. Margaret? I turned. He was taller than I'd imagined, with sandy hair that flopped over his forehead, and that same gentle smile from his photos. Real. He was real. And he was looking at me like I was exactly who he'd hoped to find. Daniel? My voice came out smaller than intended. I'm so glad you came. He held open the door and warmth rushed out to greet us. I was worried you might change my mind? I finished, stepping inside. Yeah. His honesty disarmed me. The hostess led us to a corner booth, mercifully dim and private. I slid in, grateful for the shadows that might soften the lines around my eyes, the silver threading through, my dark hair that no amount of expensive dye could fully hide anymore. Daniel ordered wine without pretension, a mid-range Chianti, not trying to impress, just choosing something nice. We made small talk about the weather, the restaurant, the parking situation. Safe territory. But his eyes kept studying me with an intensity that made my chest tight. Okay, I finally said, setting down my menu. Let's address the elephant in the room. He raised an eyebrow. The elephant? Daniel, I'm 53 years old. I have a grown daughter who's 30. You're closer to her age than mine. So let's just... Why? Why message me? The words hung between us like a challenge. I half expected him to backpedal, to offer some fetish-laden excuse that would let me leave with my dignity intact. Instead, he leaned forward. Can I tell you a story? I nodded, wrapping my hands around my water glass. 5 years ago, my mom got sick. Pancreatic cancer. She was 51. His voice remained steady, but his fingers tightened around his napkin. I moved back home to help my dad take care of her. Left my job in Seattle, my apartment, my whole life. And I watched this woman, this incredible, vibrant woman, become convinced she was a burden. My throat constricted. She kept apologizing. For being sick, for needing help, for not being young and strong anymore. And I remember thinking, how did we create a world where women believe their worth expires? Where my mother, who raised 3 kids, who built a career as a civil engineer, who could recite Whitman from memory, thought she had nothing left to offer because her body was failing her? Daniel, I'm so sorry. She died 2 years ago, he continued. And after, I started noticing things. How society treats women over 40, over 50, like you become invisible, like the accumulation of your experiences, your wisdom, your depth. None of it matters anymore because you don't look 25. He finally met my eyes. I read your profile, Margaret, and you know what I saw? Someone who's lived, who's made mistakes and learned from them, who quotes poets and rescues animals and still believes people are worth the risk, despite what life has probably thrown at you. That's not something you find in someone my age. That's not something you can manufacture. You have to earn it. I blinked rapidly, willing myself not to cry in the middle of a restaurant on a first date. The waiter appeared and we ordered. I barely registered what I asked for. When we were alone again, I found my voice. Your mother sounds like she was an amazing woman. She was. And she would have liked you. He smiled sadly. She always told me to look for someone with lived-in eyes. I never knew what she meant until I saw your picture. Lived-in eyes? I laughed, a wet sound. That's a generous way to describe crow's feet. No, his voice was firm. It's about seeing someone who's cried real tears and laughed, real laughs and survived real losses. Someone who's not performing life but actually living it. We talked through dinner, 3 hours that evaporated like steam. He told me about his work as a physical therapist, his love for hiking, his complicated relationship with his father, who'd remarried too quickly after his mother's death. I told him about my divorce 8 years prior, about rebuilding my life from scratch at 45, about my daughter Emma who was teaching English in South Korea. Does she know you're on dating apps? He asked, grinning. God, no. She'd have opinions. I rolled my eyes. Protective opinions. Would she approve of me? The question was light, but I heard the weight beneath it. He was asking if this, whatever this was, had a future beyond tonight. I don't know, I answered honestly. Would your father approve of me? I don't need his approval. Daniel's jaw set in a way that made him look older. I spent too long caring what everyone thought. About leaving my job, about being a man who cries, about who I should date based on some arbitrary rule book. He reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of mine. Can I be honest? Please. I'm terrified too, Margaret. I'm terrified you'll think I'm too young to understand what you need, or that I'm some kind of project for you, someone to fix or teach or mother. I'm terrified of being dismissed before we've even had a chance to see what this could be. I looked at his hand, so close to mine. Younger skin, yes, fewer scars visible on the surface. But his eyes, those carried their own history. I promised myself something when my mom died, he continued. I promised I'd stop, wasting time on what I was supposed, to want and start pursuing what actually made me feel alive. And reading your words, seeing your smile in your pictures, I felt something I haven't felt in years. Hope, possibility. Like, maybe the world still had beautiful surprises left. I placed my hand over his. His skin was warm, solid, real. You want to know the truth? My voice shook. I almost didn't come tonight. I stood outside for 10 minutes convincing myself this was a mistake, that you'd be disappointed, that I'd spent all this money on a new dress for nothing. That's a great dress. Let me finish, I squeezed his hand. But then I thought about Mary Oliver. What is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? And I realized I'd been answering that question with fear for too long, saying no to possibilities, because they didn't fit some script about what a woman my age should want or expect or deserve. And now I'm sitting here with someone who sees me, really sees me, and I'm thinking maybe age is just a number. Maybe what matters is whether two people choose to be brave together. Daniel's smile could have powered the city. So we're being brave? We're being brave. We left the restaurant walking slowly, reluctant to end the evening. The November air bit at our faces, but he offered his jacket anyway. I almost refused, almost said I was fine, but stopped myself. Let myself accept the kindness. At my car, he hesitated. Can I see you again? Yes. No hesitation. No second guessing. Saturday? There's a hiking trail I love. Very easy, I promise. You mentioned wanting to get outdoors more. He listens too, I teased. Dangerous combination. He laughed and the sound wrapped around me like warmth. Then, carefully, telegraphing his intentions, he leaned down and kissed my cheek. Gentle, respectful, perfect. Thank you for taking the risk, he whispered. Thank you for asking me to. Driving home, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. Same lines around my eyes, same silver in my hair. But something had shifted. I looked like myself again, not invisible, not expired, not apologizing for existing. I looked like a woman who'd remembered she was worth choosing. My phone buzzed at a red light. Daniel, already counting down to Saturday. Thank you for tonight. Me, thank you for seeing what others overlook. Daniel, their loss. My extraordinary gain. I smiled the whole way home, tears streaming freely now, not from sadness or fear, but from the overwhelming relief of being seen, truly seen, after so long in the shadows. That night, I called Emma in Korea despite the time difference. Mom, is everything okay? Everything's wonderful, sweetheart. I just wanted to tell you that I went on a date tonight. You what? Mom? Tell me everything. So I did. And when I mentioned his age, she was quiet for a moment. Does he make you happy? He makes me feel like myself again. Then that's all that matters. I can't wait to meet him. Later, lying in bed, I thought about Daniel's mother. About women learning to apologize for aging, for existing in bodies that dare to change. About the courage it takes to believe you're still worthy of love and adventure and beautiful surprises. And I thought about second chances. How they don't care about age or expectations, or anyone's rulebook but your own. Saturday couldn't come fast enough.